Hey everyone, welcome to the Acrobatic Arts Podcast. I'm Loren, and I will be interviewing some of the top leaders and innovators from the dance and acrobatic industry. If you are a teacher, performer, student, or a lifelong learner like myself, you are sure to find these episodes intriguing and full of inspiration. Acrobatic Arts is passionate about providing current and relevant information for everyone. So please, sit back and enjoy as we share our passion with you and the world. Welcome to this special episode where we're counting down the top 5 episodes of 2024. It's been an incredible year filled with valuable insights, amazing guests, and powerful conversations that have helped shape and inspire our community. Today, we're taking a moment to celebrate the episodes that resonated the most with our listeners. Let's dive in to the best of the best. Coming in at number 5, we have episode 97, Mental Skills for Acro Success with Dr. Leisha Strachan. In this clip, we hear Dr. Strachan's advice on how to help a student overcome fear following a back handspring setback.
There are a few things that just come up top of my head. One of the first things is just a reminder to that student that their physical skills often remain stable. If they're able to do something, that means that their body is able to do it. It's the psychological things going on in our heads that really kind of hold us back from being able to realize that physical potential. So it's really important to remind them that you've done it before, and that we just need to figure out how we're going to change your mindset so that you can do that and that they have full control over that. I think often if they're able to do a skill and then all of a sudden not able to do it, they really feel like they're out of control and it's not something that they can actually fix. So we want to just remind them that it is something within their control. That's something that we're just going to need to work on. And this is why it's really important to help develop or keep developing that toolbox. Imagery is a really powerful tool. And if it's used properly and if it's used consistently and kids can really think about how to try to manipulate their images a little bit more to help them and really visualize themselves not falling, I think that's really important. When I'm doing imagery, like I see myself shining in my images. Like I'm rocking it. I'm doing great. But even this year in some work with athletes in baton, they were telling me that, there's sometimes that in their images, they're seeing themselves drop or they're seeing themselves not accomplish something. And I was like, in your image, like in your own head, like what? So reminding that they have to use positive imagery and they have to be able to imagine themselves in their head accomplishing that skill and what that looks like. If you can talk them through as they're doing their image as a teacher, talk them through all the phases of it, right? Where you need to be, giving them some keywords to help them with their confidence, right? Giving them a phrase, something that's just going to help them go and kind of release their mind a little bit. Talking them through the image and the imagery, I think is really important. And then working on their own confidence, right? Just generally their own confidence, their own sort of mantra that they have, their own affirmations. There's a lot of different workshops and things out there on the internet on how to help develop positive affirmations and the importance of putting them up so they're visible. If they can, again, use that positive self-talk to help them along with positive images, right? And then also a reminder that they have control over the manipulation of that image and also control over their body and their psyche and their mindset going into it. I think that's an important thing. If you feel like they need to, go back a progression, maybe that will be helpful to sort of lead up to it again. Some might feel if I'm going back, then my teacher feels like I can't do it, right? And they might take that personally, but reminding them that it is about the journey, right? And so sometimes in order to launch yourself forward, you have to take a step back. I think I have used that before with launching an arrow. You have to pull back the arrow before you can go forward. And sometimes that momentum of just going backwards a little bit, backwards a step, so that then you can launch yourself forward might also be an important image to sort of think about.
At number 4, it's episode 80, Balancing and Limbering, Fighting the Good Fight, with Drew Burgess. Drew offers a wealth of knowledge, and in this clip, he talks about breaking down the progressions as well as how to incorporate variations into an acro class.
Even just like partitioning off a skill, maybe say like it's going down to bridge and like doing a bridge recover. For something as simple as that, although it may sound, like simple to some, it's actually really complex for a lot of dancers out there. So sometimes it's just a matter of like lifting the arms up over their head and just looking at their hands. Like sometimes that's scary for people to put their arms up and just look at their fingertips. So then once they've kind of gotten over that fear, then it's like get one hand to touch the wall behind you, then bring it back forward, then the other one, and then try to do both. So you might create progressions for the progressions that we already have and know and love and utilize. Once you have mastered like some good balancing and some good limbering skills, those are really the areas where you're going to find more success in order to create more fun and exciting variations. So for example, like it could be like, maybe let's just chat about like a tabletop or even a bridge, right? So you're in your tabletop, and we've got them at least strong enough to be able to hold that position, hold that shape. So maybe you add in like, tondus in tabletop. Maybe you have them turn around in a circle in a tabletop. Maybe in class, you're having them do like an obstacle course in their tabletop, and they have to crawl and climb up and over stacks of mats and down them. And then it could eventually go into a bridge, right? That whole entire tabletop aspect could be turned into like a bridge, like for a bridge walk with a pirouette around yourself, right? And as we kind of work more intermediate, if you will, could be sort of like a handstand, quarter, half, or full pirouette to a forward roll, or a front walkover, or cartwheel out of it. And then as we get even more advanced, like you have handstand hops, handstand walking, and then you could add in like a seated straddle press from our balancing elements as well. But then it'd be kind of fun to combine everything, right? You could have handstand walking, have a handstand pirouette, a handstand to straddle press, and straddle press back up to handstand. You could front walk over out of there. I mean, there's just so many fun aspects to once you have like good, strong roots of balancing and limbering. Everything in acro just gets so much more fun, and it becomes like a whole new world. There's a lot of imagination that you can kind of just get inspired from, a lot of great ideas that you can get inspired from just because you've mastered those good balancing and limbering elements because of your strength and flexibility.
Taking the number 3 spot is episode 85, Hypermobility, Separating Fact from Fiction, with Dr. Linda Bluestein. This episode delved deep into the myths and realities of hypermobility. In this clip, Dr. Bluestein explains the critical importance of receiving a comprehensive diagnosis.
The fact that a lot of people think that EDS and HSD are rare means that a lot of people are still not looking for these conditions. And so, when we went through medical school, we were taught, if you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. So we're taught to look for the common things before the uncommon things. And that's fine. Like, we should look for the common things first. But if somebody is still struggling with their symptoms or having, problems, persistent pain, etc., then we definitely need to be opening our minds more and thinking of other things that could be impacting the person's quality of life. And I really, really see this a lot. And there's also some people who I have seen go to a number of other doctors, and I'll get a copy of those notes. And even if they acknowledge that the person has hypermobile EDS, for example, it seems that they don't often appreciate the impact that condition can have on the person's health, because symptoms can occur both in the musculoskeletal system. So that's where you can get joint subluxations and joint dislocations. Again, with that joint instability, you can end up with joint malalignment. So you can sublux or dislocate a shoulder, for example. And so oftentimes I feel like even if other healthcare professionals, if they do acknowledge that the person has a hypermobility disorder, they don't necessarily understand that, okay, they have these musculoskeletal symptoms, but they also have gastrointestinal symptoms. Because if you think about it, connective tissue is all throughout the body. And so the gastrointestinal symptoms definitely can be related to the connective tissue disorder because we have connective tissue in our gastrointestinal tract. So that can lead to slowing of digestion, that can put us at risk for more risk for heartburn, that can cause constipation. Gastroparesis is when you have delayed gastric emptying. And so a lot of people are, if they have gastroparesis, for example, then that also puts them at risk for something called SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So I think that, I see this happen all the time where somebody will be working with a particular physician and they, again, don't connect those dots. And it's important that we do connect the dots and that we understand that at the end of the day, there is usually one root problem, and that's the person's connective tissue. And where we can't necessarily fix their connective tissue and fix their underlying genetic abnormality, if you will, we can at least do a variety of things, sometimes with their nutrition, working on like neuroscience education, working on better movement patterns, working on different psychologic skills, medication supplements, working on their sleep. These are some ways that we can improve their quality of life.
In the number 2 spot, we have episode 84, Kicks to Flips with Karen Ritchie. In this clip, Karen talks about her time with the legendary Rockettes and what it's like to be a part of this iconic dance company.
I think people see the Rockettes and they think, wow, that's so cool. How do they stay, so together? No one ever makes a mistake. Oh my goodness, if you make a mistake, you'd be fired. And that's a lot of pressure. So there's a really big mental aspect that goes with this job that people might not consider. Because it's very challenging physically. You have to be at the top of your field in tap, jazz, ballet, all of the dancing. But you also have this incredible expectation of perfection that comes at you internally from yourself. It comes at you from the front of the room, from the people creating the show. And also, it comes at you from the public as well. So it's a lot to deal with. And then you have to understand as well, with that pressure you're putting on yourself, you're trying to be as perfect as you can be, right? It's precision. You're thinking like excellence. And then you might not consider how hard it is, because while you might be doing everything that has been taught to the T, if the people around you are doing it just a little bit differently and they're doing it all the same, you are actually the one who is wrong, even when you're right. So you have to kind of get this idea out of your head that it's perfection that you're after, because it's not, it's unison. And so that mind game, that whole like pressure and importance of being perfect. Yes, you have that, but then it's also this whole other thing about matching the people next to you and doing it differently one year than the next, even though it's the same choreography. And I think one of the kind of funnier things to think about is that the Rockettes have been a part of America for such a long time that when you're in costume, you sort of forget that you're not yourself. You're representing this whole iconic legacy. And some of the people who you admire so much actually approach you and ask for photographs. I remember we were waiting in a green room and Paris Hilton had just done an interview and was leaving the office space. And 2 minutes later, her person came back and asked if we would be okay with taking a photo with her. And that to me is just so amazing when I think I'm just this dancer who grew up in a small town in Canada, and someone as big as Paris Hilton is asking to take pictures with us. That's pretty amazing.
And finally, the number 1 podcast episode of 2024 is episode 93, Reinventing the Dance Experience with Derek Piquette. Derek shared his visionary approach to pushing creative boundaries, transforming traditional dance elements, and helping dancers discover new ways to express themselves in both dance and acrobatics. In this clip, Derek talks about achieving goals and embracing new endeavors.
When I was growing up, I had 2 goals. One goal was to be on So You Think You Can Dance. I only really started getting serious into dance because of the show. I saw it and I was like, wow, I want to be on that show. I want to be like them. I want to be like all those incredible male dancers. So at 18, I auditioned and, it had a really successful run on the show. And the only other goal at that point that I had was when I was like 13 or 14, I saw my first Cirque show and I saw Mystere in Vegas with my mom. And I remember leaving the auditorium and telling my mom like very specifically, and like I said, she'll tell you the same thing. I said I want to be the lead in a Cirque du Soleil show one day. And at 19 years old, that came true. Which again was one of the wildest things. And I'm so lucky and so blessed to like, have those cards dealt in my favor and worked my butt off to get there. But very specifically trained, I kept up with intense acro training and dance and ballet and staying versatile. And so I had my mind set on those two like major goals and trained very specifically for those goals. And yeah, by 19, I kind of hit both of those. Well, I did. And it kind of after that was like, okay, well, what's next? And that opened up my mind to like a world more of possibilities because I didn't want to get stuck. I wanted to keep training. I wanted to keep learning. And I I'm so lucky to have achieved both those things at such a young age that it just like I said, opened up a world of possibilities. I just started Prodigy Dance Convention. It is a dance convention not solely, but it's a dance convention that is geared towards dancers that want to be in a dance team in university. It's bridging that gap between the convention and competitive world that I work in, and the university dance team world that a lot of my friends and teachers that are working for the convention work in. And I think, I used to ask my students a lot, like, okay, like who wants to be a professional dancer or who wants to have something to do with dance one day? And, there'd always be like a few hands. Whereas nowadays, what I've been finding is that anytime I've like asked that question, almost every kid is like, I want to be on a dance team. So I saw that shift in our culture, but then there also is like so many of my students that are like, I want to do that, but I don't know how. So what Prodigy Dance Convention is, like I said, bridging that gap and giving these students the information that they need to get to that level of dance team because it is a very different world. So as well as a convention, it's a recruiting event. We have 20 of some of the top universities in the country attending and recruiting for their teams. And like I said, handing out information, talking to the dancers about what it takes to be on the dance team, what your GPA has to be on a dance team, because there's a lot of miscommunication and a lot of missed information right now that kids just don't have. So that's where kind of Prodigy comes from.
Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of this incredible journey throughout 2024. We can't wait to bring you even more inspiring content next year. Wishing you all the best as we take a short break before heading into 2025. You won't want to miss our first episode in the new year. We'll be joined by Acrobatic Arts founder and CEO, Mandy Yip. She'll be sharing some amazing events and developments in the acro and dance industry, especially for students and teachers. We'll see you in 2025. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great day.